Hello everyone, welcome back to Quicks14Blog, Quicks14 here, coming at you with some ToC 10. That's right, our very first ToC 10 with the guild, our very first time heading in there, and we're looking at the Beasts of Northrend. This is a very unique and interesting fight, probably in any raid I've ever been in. It's this first boss fight, if you want to call it a boss fight, is actually really three boss fights. So 3 phases, 3 different bosses, all very different and interesting to actually fight, and it can be a real challenge. If you've done Old War and you've been hearing out Nax and things of that nature, this is a big change for you, and this is why gear is rather important. So we're looking at our one of our mini attempts that night, this past Sunday, or sorry, this past Friday actually, and this was like 3rd or 4th attempt we've done it. We've been making progress through and through. This was by far our best progress, and I decided to show this. This was a wipe, though, so we're looking at wipe footage first, and then we'll show the actual successful. Things of note on these bosses. Each boss is, of course, very different. This first boss is interesting enough. He does a few things. First of all, he does a stacking, as you can see, an impale on the tanks, so they have to swap out every 2 or 3 stacks, and he also does these snowballs that latch onto people and makes them go all over the place and does damage, and they need to be handled. He also does a burn on the ground, which is probably the most difficult for healers and things to pay attention to because it really, really hurts. We'll get back to him as we go through the successful one. Let's go ahead and touch on the frost worms, or not the frost worms, the juggernauts, the juggernaut worms here. There's 2 of them, as you can see. They're very unique in the fact that they have different types of ways of fighting. One has this is like a fire bile guy, and the other one's an acid one. What's interesting is they like to switch positions, as you can see there just a second ago. From time to time, they will go. One will go underground, the other one will come up. They will both go underground, and then one will come up, and the other one will go down, and it'll swap that little poison you see on the ground. Very, very similar to the man and Nax. Now, one has burning bile they'll put on a target, and the other has an acid spray, a paralyzing poison they'll put on another target. It's very important that if you have the paralyzing poison, you stop whatever you're doing and go directly to the burning bile person. He's the only one that can burn that poison off you. There's no other way to get rid of it. So it's very important that you're paying attention and do that. It can be difficult. Many times I got it, and I would get tail whipped or some sort of whipping, and it would make me get thrown into the poison and pretty much kill me. So it's something to be aware of. This is probably where you're going to struggle the most if it's your first time in the thing. If you're getting past the first phase or the first boss fight of this boss fight, these worms is where you're going to struggle the most because they really are tough. And they can be really difficult to organize and take care of properly. It took us quite a bit to get a decent amount on them and bring them down. Once you get them down, you face your final boss in this 3 boss fight. This is Ice Owl. Ice Owl isn't too difficult. He's much simpler than the last 2 bosses we saw. He's pretty straightforward. He's a simple tank and spank. He does do an ice howl on targets in a cone area effect from time to time, but his biggest thing is this right here. He will pretty much bang himself against the floor, throwing everyone against the wall, dazing them, and then he'll pick a target and start backing up. As soon as he starts backing up, everybody is not only free to move but has a speed buff, and he's going to charge to that target. Everyone needs to get out of his way and let him hit the wall. When he hits the wall, he stuns himself, and he's pretty much ponage. You know, you can pretty much throw it down on him. It's not difficult. See, look at that. That was brilliant of me. That's exactly what you don't want to do. Wasn't paying attention enough, and I ran right into him. And what happens when that happens is he gets enraged. You can usually do okay through the enraged timer, but it's best to have him hit the wall so you can take advantage of the stun. We did wipe here. There wasn't many of us left, and unfortunately me doing that pretty much killed us. So back to the first boss of this boss encounter. Like I said, it's 3 bosses. So the first boss here, again, the things you want to keep track of, tanks, you're going to have this impale debuff on you. There is a staggering stomp, does damage around him. It's only around him, so it's smaller effects. So range really wants to keep their distance. Melee DPS needs to be aware of that stomp. The fire on the ground is probably the biggest threat to casters, especially to healers, clothies, lower stamina people, because that fire really hurts. And I've had bad luck when I was in here of having 2 fires next to each other, and sometimes you can't, it's hard to tell, and I just walked right into another one. It's best to sidestep or forward out, don't back out, you won't make it. The ads that it's showing there is the frost bolts. They latch on, they do damage, they also cause you stuff like that, so they usually need to be DPS down. Most time, unless it was on the healer, we would just have 1 or 2 DPSs handle it, otherwise it was ignored. Melee DPS would handle any of them on the tanks, because yes, the tanks can get them as well. So something to be noted of. Other than that, he doesn't do much anything else. That's pretty much the biggest things you need to look for. Again, back to the Drillmongers. You start with the 2 here, Dreadskill and Poison Claw or something like that. Poison always starts on the left, Dread always starts on the right. Remember, if you get Toxin, the Paralytic Spray, and you get Toxin, you want to run over to the Burning Bile guy. Usually they're announced or marked with a skull sometimes. Usually it's the tanking Burn Maul or Dread Maul, so that's not too hard. He kind of needs to be kited, so make sure when you're making your way towards them you take it easy, because you don't want to hit that poison, because it does hurt. Now remember, they do switch, and that's what they've done here. As you can see, I'm Skull now, so now I have the burning bile. So if you had paralytic poison, you would come towards me, and I would take care of you. Now you can see it on the ground. We just killed Poison Maw, and all its stuff is Dreadskill. That's usually the order you want to do it in. It is important to note that if you do it in that order, Dread Maw does get kind of enraged. It's not that big of a deal. The poison Juggermar is much more of a threat because of that paralytic poison. Once that happens and poison's out of the way, whoever gets Burning Bile just wants to get away from the raid, because if you're near the raid or next to the raid, it will do damage. So we want to keep note of that as well. You want to watch that. When they go underground and they're getting ready to come back up, they will do the little jumble thing that you're used to seeing, and you want to keep an eye on that, so healers and such will get out of their way. And then, of course, Ice Howl again. Pretty much, again, straightforward. He's not too difficult. You just want to watch that cone effect. It does do damage and does freeze. You can't heal through it while you're frozen either. So it's not one of those, as you can see here. There's nothing you can do. It lasts for a while. Healers just need to be kind of spread out, so hopefully they won't all get hit by it. When he bangs his butt against the floor like that and gets ready to do his charge, as soon as he backs up, you got to move. And it's not too difficult. Once you get that down, it's easy. Like I said, if he does get enraged, you can usually get through it okay if you have enough healers. But for the most part, he is definitely the simpler of the 3 bosses that you're facing in this boss encounter. So, as you can see, I still get caught here and there by the ice things. It does happen. Hots are pretty important on the healers, or at least some sort of heals, because when he does do his butt stomp, it does do damage. So if somebody's low on health and you've got big wigs for Deadly Boss mods and it's going to tell you that it's going to come up here soon, make sure, healers, that you get your hots up on those low people, or heal them up before that happens, because they could die. Other than that, pretty simple. Well, not really simple, but definitely a lot different. There's a lot to take in. There is no breaks really between each of these bosses either, so you're pretty much stuck. See, he hit there, so he got enraged. So you really, as spellcasters, you need to be prepared for this gear. That's why gear is pretty important. If nothing else, for your mana regen, make sure you've got mana pots. You know, if you're a druid, keep your nerve rate ready, because you're going to be using it probably, and just be prepared to to be in this for a while and to get hit quite a bit. This is definitely a taxing fight. It's an interesting start. It's considered by a lot of people who run ToC to be one of the hardest boss fights. So definitely keep an eye on that. And that's it, guys. Beast of Northrend down. Very first time in ToC. It was a lot of fun. Very first time in ToC for the raid, for the guild, and looking forward to doing a lot more, of course. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you find it informative. Go try it out there. You get no excuse not to get gear anymore to go do this stuff. So, run your randoms, get your tier 9 gear, get out there and check it out. That's all for now. Please rate, comment, subscribe, and of course spread the word. More LPs coming up this week, so stay tuned. Until next time, guys.